I think it's very important as business owners and as individuals to learn how to save, because when you build the saving muscle, it's a lot easier to then pay off debt. Because otherwise, if you don't have enough of a money influx coming in, it's really hard to pay off debt.
Mhm.
And if you're not learning how to hold on to money, then there will never be a surplus.
Welcome to the Designer's Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Kate Bendewald. If you're tired of one-size-fits-all advice to running your interior design business, you're in the right place. Join me each week as we dive into topics to help you run a thriving interior design business without the hustle. We'll talk about the business of design, but also mindset and mental health, because I know when you thrive, so will your life and business. It wasn't that long ago that I stepped away from my corporate interior design job to build my own design business so that I could realize my own creative dreams, have more time with the people I love, and serve my clients at the highest level while making more money than I ever could have working for someone else. It wasn't always easy, and I made my share of mistakes along the way. Fast forward to today, and I've learned a thing or two. Since then, I've built multiple six-figure interior design businesses on authentic word-of-mouth referrals with many repeat clients. And I want to share it all with you, the ambitious, inspired, and I get it, occasionally overwhelmed interior designer who shares this dream of transforming lives through the art of interior design. You can do this. Thank you for letting me spend part of this day with you. Let's get to it. Today on the show, we have returning guest and my friend, Jenny Karlsson, a certified money coach helping creative entrepreneurs develop practical financial resilience and stability strategies. She's also the creator of the Money Compass Deck, a tangible tool to help you cultivate your connection with money. Jenny offers a safe, shame-free environment to help creatives develop a healthy relationship with money so they can experience greater ease and freedom. Today, Jenny and I are going to explore the idea of financial resilience, what that means, and how we can employ certain strategies day to day to help us strengthen their relationship with money while handling the ebbs and flows of being an entrepreneur. Please welcome my friend, Jenny. Good morning, Jenny. How are you?
Good morning. Hi, Kate. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me back on the podcast.
Oh, it's been too long. I'm so happy to have you back. You are a name that comes up all the time inside our program, the Interior Designers Business Blueprint. You're what I call a fan favorite for good reason. So it was time. It was time. So a little background for those of you who might be new to the podcast. First of all, welcome. We're glad to have you. We'll be sure to link to Jenny's previous podcast episode, which is also a gem, and you don't want to miss that. But Jenny Karlsson is the founder of Financials for Creatives, and she was my money coach for a period of time, and she really helped unlock something really special in me, helping me to get clear on my own money story and really have more money consciousness, if you will, is kind of how I've phrased it. And it was really transformational in helping me launch Designer's Oasis, because I was at a point where I was trying to figure out, I had this dream, I had this fire in my belly of wanting to explore this. And I had tried, but I couldn't balance it with my client workload. And so you really helped me work through trying to figure out how to practically make space and room and time for Designer's Oasis while serving my clients. And so I'm really grateful for that. And I just want to share you with the world because I think you have a true gift. And I want everybody to know about you and the really special way that you help people. So glad to have you.
Thank you. It was, you know, it was so much fun to work with you back in the day when you had the idea for Designer's Oasis, and you had a very clear vision of what you wanted to create uh, before it even took form, and now to see what it has grown into, it's, it's beautiful and it's so important in your industry.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It really is work that lights me up, and I feel excited to be able to have this opportunity to serve interior designers. Jenny, what I love about you so much, and I want other folks to know, is Jenny has this really soft voice, but do not let that confuse you. She is a powerhouse of a woman, and I love that quiet confidence that you have. Like there's just
Mm.
there's a peace and a quietness and a stillness about you, which I think a lot of us need when we're talking about money, because money can become very triggering for anybody who's had maybe an unhealthy relationship with money or have, entanglements with the money story. And so I love that about you, but at the same time, you are fierce. You have a fire in your belly. I know that you
Yes.
are passionate about helping women, creative entrepreneurs, really get clear on their money story and helping them change their relationship with money. And I think that sort of tenacity is required. And so I love that juxtaposition of this strength, this quietness, but also very strong and powerful woman. So yeah, just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, when I speak with prospective clients, I often hear that, you know, like if I could have an ounce of your calm, that would be a win. And so, it's really important to have that safe, non-judgmental space to talk about money and
Mhm.
uh, to be that groundedness for someone who's working through any guilt and shame that comes up around money. That's really important to me. But I will also, I'll be the fiercest cheerleader um, for my clients. And
Yeah. And
it's an honor
accountability
to do
partner,
this work.
I would add.
Oh,
Sorry, I didn't mean
yes.
to, yeah. Because I know there were times and moments where, in our coaching together, I remember distinctly one time I chalked something up to just, well, I'm an Enneagram 7 and that's just my personality. And you were like, well, wait a second. And really, I don't remember the context or what we were talking about. And so it was that you can use it to help really hold somebody accountable in a safe and healthy way, of course. But I really
Yeah.
appreciate that about you. So cool. But let's get into it. But before, actually, we're going to get into it in a minute. But first, I want to ask you to share, and we talked about this a little bit before, and you gave me permission to ask you about this, but I believe it was last summer, Jenny, you were diagnosed with breast cancer, which you've been public about on social media. And since then, I understand you've been undergoing chemo treatments and sharing about this journey. And I believe you recently completed your last chemo treatment for now. And so I'd
Yes.
love to just hear, how are you doing today?
Today I'm doing great, all things considered. I am still very much in the midst of this healing journey. Chemo was the first step to try to shrink the cancer. And
Mhm.
then next, I'll be going through a mastectomy and then radiation on top of that. So there's still a couple of months left of the treatment journey. And then there'll be hormonal treatment for 5 to 10 years to kind of
Mhm.
keep things at bay. You learn more and more as a human, as a woman. Hormones are like such a big part of our life, and
Mhm.
you know, cancer can feed off of hormones. So that's where you know, those suppressing medications will come in. So it's been a wild journey in terms of, going from being in a premenopausal state to
Mhm.
then going through chemically induced menopause. So
Mhm.
like the hot flashes have started, and it's like it's so bizarre how that happens. Like out of nowhere. It's just like the temperature just rises inside, and it's like it has to come out
Oh gosh.
somewhere, and
Yeah.
it just rises up through the head, and
Oh my gosh.
that's a whole new uh fun adventure, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yes, ma'am. Well, that was me last night laying in bed.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I just want you to know that we're all here for you, cheering you on, rooting for you, and praying for you and for a swift recovery. And I know that pretty soon this will all be in the rearview mirror as a part of your story. And I know that
Thank you.
it I look forward to hearing and seeing how that story becomes a part of your work because in fact, let me just ask you this. I'm sure it already has. How has this experience so far, or has it changed your approach to your business or your coaching methods?
Yes, I would say that it's shifting. I don't know entirely how that will take form yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that in my work, I often serve as a bridge between where you're at and where you want to be, and looking at it through that financial lens.
Mm-hmm.
But with going through breast cancer, and in the past having navigated recurring miscarriages before I had my son, there's been a lot of health uh, issues, or events that have shaped me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And something that continues to come up through that work is money, um, money and navigating health challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and having a business in the midst of it, as well as being a mother of a 3.5-year-old. So, you know, it's balancing a lot of different roles.
Yeah.
And I think that in the long run serves my clients better, because I can see, life and business through a lot of different lenses. And that's kind of where, you know, resilience, for example, plays a big part, and financial stability. Even as a money coach, going through this, at the early stages of being diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer, which it's a rare form of breast cancer that usually doesn't get diagnosed until it has spread to the rest of the body. But because I have a very strong intuitive sense, and I'd had a mammogram that came back normal, I was able to say, you know what? I don't think it is normal, and we need to do more testing.
Wow.
And I was right. So
Mm.
intuition is also such a huge component with having, confidence in yourself, in trusting yourself with money.
Mhm.
And oh, what I was going to say is, even if you're a money coach, when something like this comes up with a health challenge, for example, it doesn't matter how much you prepare. You might have a financial foundation, you may have tried to do everything right,
Mhm.
but there can still be moments where, it's kind of beyond your control. And that can be really terrifying.
Mhm.
And I know I kind of uh, went through some self judgment initially, like I should be able to figure this out, when, bills for just diagnostic tests started to come in. And it's really also opened me up to learning how to receive and to ask for support, and to
Mhm.
recognize that we can't get through these kinds of things alone.
I love what you said just at the top of that because it touches on something that I've been thinking a lot about and talking about somewhat, which is learning to trust ourselves.
Yeah,
And in this case, you're talking about it not only in the context of money and trusting yourself that you can figure this out, you can do this, but also
yeah,
your body and taking care of yourself and your health. And you knew that there was something off and you weren't afraid to speak up and you trusted yourself, even though the experts, and for those of you watching online, I'm using air quotes here, the experts, I've got something wrong with my knee and I went and saw a doctor and he's like, you're fine. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, why does my knee hurt? So, I'm probably gonna have to figure something else out and go find somebody else. But I promise we're going to get into talking about financial resilience here in a second, but I want to ask you a different question before we do.
Yeah.
Intuition, right? We're talking about intuition. Do you believe I consider myself an intuitive person? And it's one of the things that I consider to be a strength of mine. And I've talked to people who have said or expressed that they didn't feel like they have a strong intuition. And I'm curious, do you agree with that? Do you think that intuition can be taught or nurtured? Um, or that some people either have it or they don't? Have you ever contemplated this? Because I have recently.
Yes. And I think we live in such a noisy world right
Mhm,
now that if you haven't learned to listen internally,
mhm,
then it's really hard to pick it up, which means it's really important to learn how to get quiet inside so that you can hear these messages. Because the brain will always be loud. Ego,
yep.
fears, all of it. It's like
Mhm,
the volume is dialed to the maximum. But
mhm,
intuition comes from a different place. It comes either from your heart or your gut area, and it can come up. There are different intuitive senses, whether it's a knowing or a feeling, or some pick it up as they smell something or they hear something.
mhm,
So, like, you have to learn how to identify how those messages come through. And they're like little whispers at
mhm,
first, I
mhm,
feel like.
mhm.
But the more you learn to trust those messages, the more you can actually pick them out from the noise. Um, it's something that I've been passionate lately, especially going through chemo, and it just saps all of your energy. So I'm in the process of becoming a certified heart math mentor. And heart math is a methodology to become more coherent, which
Mhm,
means that your brain and your heart works more in sync
mhm,
so that you're able to maintain composure and have more clarity and ability to solve problems under high stress or just with different kind of stressors. And in the teachings, they kind of liken it to having an inner battery
mm,
with your energy. And we always have like a baseline of energy. And if that's, empty and we get stressed, whether it's in our business or in our personal life, we tend to just react. Um,
right.
and it may not look pretty. So if you can, there are different methods that I'm learning and starting to practice with some clients, but it allows you to tap into your heart more so that you can reduce the energy leaks that tend to sap most of what we have in our battery so that you can learn how to both get rid of the leaks, learn how to recharge the battery, and still be able to like tap into that inner knowing, the intelligence that the heart has when you need to solve problems.
Mhm,
And I love that because it it can be it's actually creating a physiological change in your body, which is really cool. So, working with different stressors around money, and
Yeah.
actually have a tool that can change the way you both feel, how you act, how your body is responding to it is, you know, that's another layer of this work that is really fun to experiment with.
Gosh, I'm so excited to hear this from you. And it's so wild. I have heard of this uh, idea, the concept of heart math. In fact, I think you brought it up to me for the first time, but months and months and months ago. And just yesterday, I came across an article in Forbes that led me down a rabbit hole to their website and
Cool.
just scratched the surface of that recently. So it's funny that you're bringing this back up again. Well, we're gonna have to have you back to talk more about this once you've sort of gone through the program and want to share more because I know I can't think of a better person to share about that with us. So, well, let's talk about financial resilience because that's what's been on your heart and what I am so eager to dive into. First of all, what is financial resilience? What does it mean, and how does it relate to financial stability?
So, financial resilience, it kind of it goes to the kind of the capacity that you have to adapt to, when economic climate changes or things change in your business or in your life.
Mhm.
The the more resilient you are, the easier it is to get back on track so that you can continue to move towards your financial goals. But it's highly interconnected with financial stability. And financial stability is basically when you have enough income to cover both your expenses, to manage any debt that you have, and to save.
Mm.
When you have that kind of foundation in place and that starts to grow, and you have a cushion, you have an emergency fund, and you have savings for your future self, when shit hits the fan, it doesn't have to be something big, but it can be,
Mm.
your computer dies that you need to have to run your business.
Right.
If you have a cushion, it doesn't become an emergency. Like
Right.
you can go and get it repaired or buy a new laptop or whatever
Mhm.
and keep moving with your business. Or
Yeah.
if your fridge dies, you can go and order a new fridge, and it doesn't have to be a big stressor.
Right.
So that's what we want to get to, where you have enough of a buffer
Yeah.
that when something happens, you can handle it, you can adapt,
Yeah.
and you can move on.
Right. Right. One thing that comes to mind for me is I think about designers who have, and I've definitely had this experience, in the past where, there's something out of your control that causes a project to poof, be gone, you know.
Mm.
I'll tell you the specific example of mine was we had been working really closely with this family. We did the full design project, full concept design presentation. They loved it. They signed off on it, and it was going to be stunning. We were so excited about this project. It was a historic renovation of an 1800s Victorian home here in Denver,
Ah,
full remodel with an addition, historically accurate. Like the details were impeccable. I still, by the way, have their presentation over here printed
oh,
out, and I look at it sometimes and I'm just like, oh. But what happened was they got into construction and they were demoing the back of the house, and they revealed that the structure underneath was unstable, and it was so bad that it would not be able to be shored up through engineering. And they went
wow.
round and round and round with the city, the structural engineer, homeowner, builder, all of this. Of course, I was out of it because I don't know anything about that, but I was on standby for like, I got a call the day after Christmas to tell me pause on all the work because we still had the rest of the contract, the rest of the process to complete with them in terms of ordering, all of the things that were on our scope of work, and of course helping and overseeing our end of it. And that was income and revenue that we were really counting on for the next couple of
Yeah.
months. And the ultimate word was that they were going to have to raise the building and completely the house and completely tear it down. It was really, really devastating, especially
Wow.
for the homeowners. And my heart just, my heart broke first and foremost for the homeowners who had this vision of raising their daughters in this beautiful home. And they're fine. They've moved on and they're okay. So it felt a little hard in that moment to be worried about myself, but
Yeah.
it did feel good to know that I was at a place where it wasn't going to impact my business financially in a devastating way, that this project literally got pulled out from underneath us. I've had projects where we've started and, we just realized right off the bat, you know what? I think this was a mistake. I think we're going to need to
Mm.
maybe reconsider this project. And that's only happened once, but it's something that it felt good to know that I had the financial ability to be able to turn away and say no to a project or a client, and not feel like I had to be stuck or entangled with a toxic
Right.
personality or a project that wasn't a right fit. And that is really freeing, And so when I think of financial resilience, those are the kind of benefits that I could see clearly for designers, is being able to have the luxury of saying yes to the projects that are exciting for you and say no to the projects and the people who aren't right. And not be devastated
100%.
if something, maybe it is a great client, like in the case of the Victorian home, but there's something outside of all of our control that changed things. So um, I think it's really important that we're talking about this with any business owner, but designers especially, because we all know there's so much out of our control. So much. My
Yes.
good friend says
Yes.
control is an illusion. And I'm like, that is really hard to hear because you're talking to someone who is a recovering control freak perfectionist. Okay. So, so our listeners are by and large women. And what we know about women is we're often also caretakers, whether that's folks who've chosen to grow a family, or they are caring for people in their community, or they're caring for aging parents, or they're building a marriage, a partnership, with a spouse or partner. They have various social obligations, community obligations, volunteering. So we are, by choice, I think a lot of times, choosing to have all of these roles because that's something that's important to us and we want that.
Yes.
And yet, with those responsibilities come times where we have to prioritize taking care of either sick children, sick parents. In the case of today, we have a snow day, so our kids are not in school. And, I fortunately, my kids are a little older, so those days are a little easier. I could still get some work in, and one day is not going to throw the whole thing off track. But my point is, as women in this role, oftentimes when these other responsibilities come up, the first thing that gets put to the back burner is our work, is our career.
Yeah.
And I will be very honest that there have been moments in my life where I have felt resentful of that. And yet it's what I want. I want to be available for my kids. I started my business because I wanted to be available for my kids and my family. And yet sometimes when it means that it competes with my work, I get resentful and I struggle with that a little bit, with carrying both of those things. So walk me through this. If when I'm having to, or when we're having to put our work or our career on the back burner for whatever reason, be it health, be it caretaking, whatever, coach me, Jenny. What would you say? What would you say to this? I'm asking for a friend.
I will say you're not alone.
Okay.
Uh, I've been in the same situation.
Mhm.
I I think a lot of your listeners will be sitting and nodding their heads, and you know, it's easy to kind of feel like you're in a victim mode when this happens because
Mhm.
we've chosen to be business owners because we have purpose um, outside of mothering. Um,
Right.
that is like tied to our soul and our soul's work. And our, like, when that thing that matters to us so much gets derailed, you know, it's natural to be pissed about it. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to feel those feelings
Mhm.
and, you know, go through the whole range of it. I know I
Yeah.
can get real ragey um, in
I
those
can't imagine what
moments.
that looks like from you.
It's full on fire. And then I have to be like, okay, I know how to figure this out.
Yeah.
I can, you know, reschedule meetings and turn it into a good day.
You're trusting
But
yourself.
yes, and I have wonderful clients too that are
Mhm.
flexible and
Right.
oftentimes mothers, and they might be in a different phase of life, but
Mhm.
they've had little ones.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, in terms of concrete strategies for what to do, it kind of ties back to capacity again in terms
Yeah.
of s- surrounding yourself with resources. Like, how resourced are you in terms of time, energy, and money? Because when you have capacity, you're able to solve those problems a lot easier.
Mhm.
Um, whether that is to have more of a support system.
Right.
So let's say I'll go back to my own example again, but hopefully there are listeners who also have kids in daycare right now, or even with school. But
Mhm.
my son goes to an in-home daycare, which is smaller than a typical daycare.
Mhm.
The challenge with that is if the owner of the daycare gets sick, the
Mhm.
daycare closes,
Mhm.
which then means I have to shift everything around in my schedule to then,
Mhm.
be with my son.
Sure.
If you have a daycare that has more than one employee, that's one way to be more resourced,
Yeah.
that things don't shut down because of one person, but it
Right.
might be a staff of 5 people, so
Mhm.
that the daycare is still open.
Right.
And you as a business owner then have more stability and
Mhm.
don't have to put out as many fires.
Right.
So same thing internally in the business. If you have people on your team, like that you
Right.
have a team,
Mhm.
you're actually able to then delegate and not have everything be on your plate,
Right.
uh, which then frees you up to do the work that is most essential that you complete. The less essential pieces still important, but they
Mhm.
don't have to be done by you. That could be, sourcing furniture or procurement, rendering, those sorts of things. The owner of the
Business
business,
development. Oh, yeah.
just, yeah, doesn't,
Go ahead.
yeah, doesn't have to be under there. But like, figure out what components of the business are essential that you do
Mhm.
so that the rest can be delegated. Um, have the it's going to come back no matter what you ask me, it's going to come back to having a financial cushion and
Sure.
some money in the bank so that you can more easily solve problems. It's also important to, when you have that that many different obligations across life and business, that you set realistic expectations of what you can accomplish.
Mhm, mhm.
When we're driven individuals, we think we can accomplish a lot in a day, but even on our best day, we might be able to finish a maximum of 3 to 5 tasks.
Yeah.
And also to make sure that you take really good care of yourself, both through stress management, through self care, and surrounding yourself with peers. Hey,
Mhm,
Designer
mhm.
Oasis.
Yeah.
And mentors. I mean, Kate,
Right.
when I hear you talk, I just feel so grateful that you have created this space for interior designers to have a role model, and especially, with that historic home that you can model to business owners who are a little bit earlier on, that, it is possible to get to a place of financial stability and financial resilience,
Mhm.
and to, show that in action.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that. And I just have to say that, this has come through a lot of trial and error and a lot of, trying things that didn't work and reevaluating and doing it
Yeah.
differently. So it just, to those who are newer, it just takes time. But yeah, when you talk about being resourced, I'm hearing a lot of really specific strategies, and mentorship is one of them, and obviously that's something that we can provide, but focusing on building that financial cushion for yourself, finding a support system, whether that's externally in the way of childcare or meal delivery services or whatever that might
Yes.
look like
Oh my
for
God,
you,
yes.
um, or internally through a team that can support you and keep the train on the tracks so that if you need to go take a minute, like the business can still continue to move forward. And I will say that was one of the things when I first started to hire folks in my business that gave me, at first, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It felt very vulnerable to feel somewhat responsible for someone's income. Um, I learned to shift that a little bit, but ultimately, once I got past that hump, I recognized that it was their support that was going to allow the business to grow exponentially, and that certainly was the case. But it was scary at first, for sure.
Yeah. But you also brought up something really important, which, whether it is as, a business owner who's wearing many hats, or if you're wanting to improve your relationship with money,
Mhm.
having a growth mindset, that you're not continuing to do the same thing over and over, but you actually want to learn and experiment and, tweak when needed.
Yeah. I've I recently heard the phrase, and I think I'm getting this right. You're either winning or you're learning. It's like
Yes.
that's all those setbacks are learning opportunities. And you also talked about, self-care, which I know is a word that can sometimes feel trite to people, but I just
Yeah.
have to say, I have been changing my relationship with sleep. I have not
Mm.
historically been a great sleeper, and I tend to stay up too late and too much screen time and get up early and really not getting enough sleep or quality sleep. And I have made a conscious decision to try to improve my sleep hygiene, is the phrase I've heard. And I cannot speak highly enough of how that has changed my energy during the day and my ability to focus. I've been very public about the fact that I have attention deficit and I have to really work to stay focused on get the, most important things done through the day. But making quality sleep a priority has been a huge game changer in my ability to show up for my business and make the most of
I
the
bet.
time that I have, even if it's abbreviated because shit hit the fan that day, which I will tell you, it was like 2 weeks ago on the same week it was just like mayhem. And I was like Tuesday, I just chalked the week up to being done because it ended up being fine, but I had a kid who was sick and like throwing up, a kid that got lice at
Oh,
school, and we had to wash all of the everything and go to a clinic. And I didn't know this, but there's apparently these lice clinics where they will like look at every single inch of your head and like clear it out, and like
wow.
it's amazing, and it's such peace of mind. But that was all a learning experience. So that happened. We did all this laundry, I had sanitized the entire house, shower, everybody showered, bathed, washed the laundry, washed the dogs. I was like, even though they were not a threat. And as soon as that was done, I get a sick kid who throws up in her bed because she couldn't make it to the bathroom.
Oh,
She was that weak and sick. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we had a dog with a double ear infection who couldn't sit still and was just running circles around the house. We had to get her to the vet. Oh, by the way, and my husband was traveling for work that week. So I'm like,
wow.
this shitstorm showed up and it's just hanging out. So I told my assistants, I was like, listen, if I'm not checking my email, just text me if you need something because I'm trying to keep my head on straight over here. But you know what? It was fine. Like it worked out. But it was, if I hadn't been resourced in terms of quality sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've totally cut out alcohol just to do that experiment, and that's been great. I do have a team in place to support me today, but you know what? I didn't have all of these things overnight. I didn't start out with these things. It's
Right.
been something that I've consciously worked towards, and I hope that's what people listening can take away from this. And I'd still love more, I want all the resources I can get.
Yeah. And I agree 100% with you. Any mention of self-care, it's kind of like, a little cringe. But self-care doesn't have to be uh, something big and going
Right.
to a spa or a massage or whatever. But like quality sleep is essential.
Mhm.
Same thing with drinking enough water in a day. I mean, uh, I am guilty of like I hate drinking water, but it's so boring, but it's so essential. Like
Right.
you go through the whole day just drinking coffee or tea or whatever, and then you like I wonder at the end of the day, like, oh, why am I so tired? Oh,
Uh-huh.
have I had even a sip of water? No.
Right.
But
Yeah,
that changed with chemo because
sure.
when you go through chemo, you have to hydrate. So I had a very
Mhm.
good friend who kept texting me like, drink more water.
Oh,
So
that's a
that's part
friend.
of it too, like making sure
Yeah.
that you have friends who will check in with you and
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, people you can rely on for different aspects of your life.
Ooh, that's a really good one. Because one of the things I've really learned in the last couple of years is that you you can't like we have this community of people around us, and they are all um resources for us and can fill us up in different ways. And obviously, we hope to reciprocate that depending on what the relationship is. But whether it's a partner or a friend or a coach or our neighbors, right? Just knowing that you've got people that you can count on to help you out. When I got stuck in traffic the other day, I knew that I could send a voice text to three of my friends, and I'm like, well, somebody pick up my kids. It's just very comforting to have a
Yeah,
community of people that you can count on. And there's not one person that can do it all. No, that wouldn't be healthy
no,
anyway, but
it really teaches you how to ask for help, to not
uh-huh.
try to do it all. Like you will hit a wall at some point if you don't learn how to ask for help and to receive help. Uh, Sometimes it can be hard to even answer. If someone asks, how can I help you? Life might be so overwhelming that you don't know what to answer. And then you might ignore the text or whatever, but uh, yeah, it's like a muscle to build in terms of, you know, asking and receiving.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like you worked through some of that in this season of your life when
Yes.
the diagnosis came through and you realized I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
Man, good. I'm glad. I'm glad you found the strength to do that because I think it is a great characteristic, and it's yet not something that always comes naturally to everyone is to ask for help.
No. And there's a lot of magic that can unfold when you allow yourself to ask for help.
Mm.
And I've even had, past clients and friends who've said, you know, if you don't know what to answer, if someone asks if they can bring you food or whatever, like text me and I'll tell you what to say. So it's like,
I love that. I love that.
yeah. So yeah,
Well, I've certainly haven't gotten to where I have. Nobody has on their own, and I have relied on the
no.
wisdom and knowledge and expertise of many coaches over the years. And you were obviously a favorite, so I'm a big advocate for that, and I hope to be able to return that and pay that forward to the folks who are in my community today. A couple last questions for you. I have had many conversations with interior designers who feel like they are in a feast or famine cycle. And or excuse me, they have experienced the feast or famine cycle. And yet, when they get into what we might consider a season of abundance, right? When there's
Hmm.
plenty of work, there's plenty of resources. Um, it can be hard to settle into that and sort of ride that wave, if you will, of just like, okay, let's just enjoy this moment of abundance, um, and not force themselves to fight or work or I don't want I'm not I don't want this to be confused with ambition, but not learning how to settle into that moment and just enjoy the time freedom that you have, knowing that there's going to be another season of busyness around the corner, and use this
Yeah.
opportunity to sort of refuel your creativity, refuel your emotional battery, because that's what you've worked hard towards, and that's been a challenge of mine. So how do we find a way to stay balanced regardless of what season we're in, and sort of normalizing those seasons, I think.
Yeah. I think part of it is to recognize that there is an ebb and flow in business. And
Mhm.
the longer you're in business, you might be able to recognize the seasonality
Yeah.
so that you don't end up like really judging yourself or criticizing yourself if you're in a slow period, but
Yeah.
to meet yourself with, you know, awareness that this is a natural part of the business cycle or
Yeah.
of the year and that
Mhm.
it will pick up. But then also when it picks up, to not go beyond your capacity,
Mhm.
to actually know what enough is so
Mhm.
that
Ooh, yeah.
you're you're not in the scarcity mentality of thinking like it's going to get slow again, I better take on everything I can possibly take on, and then you burn out.
Yeah.
um, so if you can shift from term focus to more of a long-term vision,
Mm.
then it's a lot easier to zoom out and be more aware of your boundaries, your capacity, but also to like have systems in place so that you know what your money is going to do to carry you through each
Mhm.
phase. And that, I think, really helps avoid the risk of constantly striving to grow bigger and bigger,
Mm.
um, but to focus more on uh, that. It comes back to financial stability,
Yeah.
having given money that comes in purpose so that your nervous system can kind of relax and know everything is taken care of. I will get paid for X number of months. Like, to focus more on that
Mhm.
versus do as much as you possibly can. And um,
Yeah.
it just evens everything out more. And I think the more more even things get, the easier it is to navigate the ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I love that so much because I do feel like that anxious energy, that scarcity, that um almost like quiet panic inside, it it doesn't serve you well.
No, no.
Ask me how I know. So where does somebody start, right? Let's say you're taught, so there's somebody listening and they're just like, I don't know where to start. What is the most important step that one should take to start to organize one's life or business financially, Jenny?
So it's important to know that it's never too late to start
Ah,
learning about money and to ask questions and to tap into that growth mindset of wanting to change things for the better. Um, I am a huge fan of having a budget or a spending plan because you need to know what money is coming in and what's going out. It doesn't have to be fancy. I started on a piece of paper, just writing out all the recurring expenses to get an idea of when they happen, how much they are, do I need them, or did I think I was going to use them, but I actually didn't. So it creates more awareness of what's going on in your business.
mhm.
Then it's also essential to make sure that you separate your personal and your business finances so that it's crystal clear uh,
Mhm.
what the money is used for. It reduces so many headaches. It makes everything simpler, and that helps you make better decisions. One of the things that a lot of early business owners try to get by with is having a spreadsheet instead of implementing a bookkeeping system. But if I've seen something from working with numerous interior designers, is that you have a lot of stuff going on,
Yeah,
and a spreadsheet, you will outgrow that really
very quickly.
quick
Yeah.
because you need to be able to track projects. You need to be able to track profitability and
Mhm.
see if a project was actually profitable and how much, and also that it's accurate. A spreadsheet, there's human error involved in that. It may sound like I'm contradictory to what I said about that it doesn't have to be fancy, but that's when you're doing like mapping out where money is going.
Right.
But for bookkeeping, having QuickBooks or something of the
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
is essential
Yeah.
um, to have updated, accurate knowledge of what's going on. But then also to remember that you don't just set and forget these things, but you need to review them regularly so
I
that you
love
can
that.
make estimates
Yeah.
and ask for help. It comes back to that again, too. Whether, you know, if it's a financial advisor or a money coach or, you know, a therapist, if, you know, you're navigating a lot of stress or you're in a lot of debt and you need to have a safe space to talk things through. You know,
Mhm.
it's both, you have to take care of both your mental health and your financial health.
Yeah, it's they are closely tied, my friend. They are so
Yes.
closely tied. I know. I mean, I felt so shameful for a really long time about carrying student loan debt. And I realize now that so many people carry that kind of debt because we have a broken uh education system for higher education, in my opinion. And I I've talked about my backstory here, but I got a late start in life because I had to work full time while going to college. So it took me many years to get through college. I had $0 when I started college. So I literally had to borrow every cent that I needed to get me through college to earn my degree. And I didn't have the resources, the bandwidth, or the mentorship to help me understand the importance of starting to get that paid off early. And so I sat with that debt and the shame for a really long time. And it was a great day when I wrote that check to pay off all of my student loans and to have that go away. But looking back on it, I realized that that shame kept me stuck and playing small for a really long time. So when you talk about being resourced, having a mentor, um, the only thing I wish I would have done differently is had a mentor earlier in this space,
Yeah.
to be able to help me sort of navigate that without the shame. And I look back on it now and it was really wasted energy because I didn't need to be ashamed. That's what I needed to get myself through that period of life. And I'm very proud of my education and my achievement there. Um, but yeah, it is, I can't speak highly enough about the importance of getting help, in whatever way that might look like for you.
Yeah. And I mean, guilt and shame around debt is really common,
Mhm,
and it can be easy to beat ourselves up if we end up in debt and feel like it's really hard to get out of it.
mhm,
Uh, but I think the important thing is to remember that by starting to pay it off, that you're doing something to change your situation. But it can, there are so many layers to that. I think it's very important as business owners and as individuals to learn how to save, because when you build the saving muscle, it's a lot easier to then pay off debt. Because otherwise, if you don't have enough of a money influx coming in, it's really hard to pay off debt.
mhm,
And if you're not learning how to hold on to money, then there will never be a surplus. But when you have a surplus, as you said, then you can, make a large payment to pay off a student loan and
mhm,
release
mhm.
that energy.
Yeah.
Um, I also wanted to add in terms of if you feel silly about not knowing where to start with working on your money and your relationship with it, remember to start small. Learn the basic uh, of, budgeting, saving, investing. Use your curiosity to gather information
Mhm,
and to be kind to yourself, that it's okay that that you don't have certain knowledge yet. You may not have had role models teaching you. And it can also be made into something fun. Um, if you're a natural learner and it just happens that money hasn't been the area, like that might have be the last area that you're approaching.
uh-huh.
But then, like, there's so many good podcasts, audiobooks, Netflix shows about money. Like, l- listen to it,
Mhm,
learn,
mhm.
see how other people have navigated it, and see that you're not alone in a lot of these situations.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And for those of you who are watching the video version of this, you'll see me chuckle here because as we're talking about this, I have to laugh because Jenny, I'm a work in progress, but it makes me think of this pillow that I have. It's, it says it's a needlepoint pillow. It says, "I'm not needy, I'm wanty." And it's I like beautiful things and I like things and that is, I've been public about this. I'm like, I don't have a hard time making money. it's the holding on to it part that I really have to work at because I like stuff and
Yes.
experiences and good food and all the things. And so really learning to get that joy out of things that are free in life is has been a really fun journey for me. And like I said, I'm a work in progress. So I hope and appreciate that we can have a laugh there about that and just like, I'm human.
We
um
we all have our moments, and
yeah.
yeah.
The Instagram ads on this one. This is a company that I love and I like and I follow. And once they get you, they're like, oh, she likes that. She wants it. And then they just keep showing up until
Oh,
you crack open and you're like, fine, take my money.
yes.
Add to cart. Jenny, this has been such a wonderful treat to get to chat with you again. I'm wondering if you have time for one quick question that was submitted from a listener.
Sure.
Okay. Because it does tie into what we talked about today. We're talking about money, financial resilience, and being resourced and building capacity for the ebbs and flows that come in your business. So this question comes from Zoe, but I will say I get this question a lot. And so I would love your expertise if you can answer it sort of high level, because I know you don't know her specific scenario, but her question is this. How do you assess your firm's financial health before deciding to hire additional team members? Any key financial indicators or benchmarks you would consider?
Oh, that's a good question. I I would look at, first of all, you need to be clear what your finances look like, so that you can basically assess your profit and loss statement. Um, is the business at a healthy point? Does it have a healthy bottom line to begin with? And does it have capacity to take on people on payroll? Are you getting paid, first of all, being in the business?
Mhm.
And, this is really where having a very good accountant comes in, because they can look at it more in depth around payroll and what capacity the business has to take them on.
Mhm.
But you may not, initially, you could experiment
and word of mouth referrals. So once you do get to that place where you feel ready to bring in somebody to support you internally, you can see just how that effect can be compounded, right? When you have somebody that's helping you give your clients a really great experience. So
I will die on that hill with you.
yay! Live on that hill. We're always dying. We got work to do.
No. we have a lot of our life work to do.
Oh my gosh, Jenny, I love you so much. And I
I
feel
love you
so
too.
honored to call you a friend. And thank you so much for your time. I know that it probably takes a lot of energy for you to sit here and to be able to do an interview like this. And so we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share everything with us.
Thank you. It's actually like chatting with you and talking about something that I love talking about is energy giving. So thank you for having me back on the podcast and to have this conversation.
I love that. Before we go, would you mind sharing with our listeners where they can find you if they want to learn more about working with you and how they might start to learn more?
Yeah. So my website is financialsforcreatives.com. I hang out on Instagram quite a bit at Financials for Creatives. If you're curious about learning more about my Oracle deck, the Money Compass deck, you can go to moneycompassdeck.com to check it out. It helps you take bite-sized action to strengthen your relationship with money. And I work with interior designers, other creative entrepreneurs, and offer both cash flow intensives where we do a deep dive into the numbers to get some clarity, but also I have a longer 6-month coaching program one-on-one where we go both practical, behavioral, emotional, and spiritual, like the whole holistic package, which is quite unique in the money coaching space and which makes it really fun. So if just like Kate was saying earlier, that you're good at making money, but needing to learn how to hold on to money. Money management is my zone of genius. And if you're in that sweet spot where enough money is coming in, but you may not be able to take home the kind of salary that you want and need to put more of the money management pieces in place. You're good at making money, but how to hold it on, how to get out of debt, how to build a cushion of money in the bank. That's where I come in. And then we can look at the money story behind it too and why there might be some limiting beliefs that are holding you back.
Well, 10 out of 10 recommend Jenny and working with her. It truly was life-changing for me. I know that it can be for you too. So go check her out. We'll be sure to link to all of that in the show notes. Jenny, thank you. You're a gem, and I'm so grateful to call you a friend. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Hey friend, thank you so much for letting me spend a part of this day with you. I'm so passionate about helping designers like you, and I believe in a rising tide, that when one of us does well, we all do better. So if you share this attitude of abundance with me, I want you to do just one little thing. Please share this episode with someone you think might love it. And if you're feeling extra generous today, go ahead and take just 30 seconds to open your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It's free for you to do, and it helps me to be able to keep making more episodes and resources for you. However you choose to help, please know I appreciate you so very much. Thank you, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you soon.